All right, everyone, gonna get going here. It's about 4:02, so we want to be mindful of everyone's time. We appreciate everyone coming out today for the webinar with Dr. Jeff Magee. I am the webinar host here. My name is George Tsafonias. I'm based here out of Orlando, Florida. All right, so here's a quick rundown of today's agenda. We're going to run about 60 minutes. We're talking about the presentation of 5 steps to selling. We're very excited here. So Jeff's going to give us a whole bunch of his selling prowessness across the board. We'll have some questions, and then Jeff is going to give us a little special bonus at the end. And so it's very, very exciting stuff here too as well. So for those of you that don't know Dr. Magee, he is I'd like to introduce him as one of the top performance coaches in the country, and that doesn't do him any justice because he does sales, leadership, you name it. But he's had a long career. He's been one of the leading marketing strategists for business leaders, entrepreneurs, military generals across the U.S. and internationally too as well. He's an accomplished speaker, author, trainer, 20 plus books. I put plus there because I didn't really know. He's been doing so many of these books for a while. 3 college graduate management textbooks. He's a publisher of Performance Magazine. You can see the lineup of people that have graced the cover there. One day, hopefully I'll be on that too as well. And just has some amazing credentials here as a leader inside the space too. So a little bit about his client base. The logos kind of say it all, right? Everyone from Microsoft all the way down to your smallest entrepreneur, all the way back up to NASA, U.S. Army, you name it. Dr. Magee's been there for quite a while, been doing some phenomenal things, and has a long list of that. Also an accomplished, has tons of testimonials from across the board, and just a fantastic business person, and has been doing it a long time, and a lot of good stuff on that. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and mute myself, get myself off the screen, and introduce Dr. Magee.
Thank you guys very much. George, thank you very much. George and I have been working together for going on 20 years. So I appreciate the continued partnership with him as well. So as he's rocking from his home-based studio in Orlando, and I'm working from my office on the high rise of the Las Vegas Strip, that really takes us to where we are today. And today, when we think about sales and marketing and client connections, there's a lot of new challenges. And for some people, they view those challenges as a problem. And I want to kind of dissect a little bit of the realities we're living and working within right now today. So as we move forward, we can become just a little bit more successful. So one of the challenges that you may be facing over the last 78 days or not is a lot of the country and a lot of the world has been kind of knocked off its balance a little bit with Mr. COVID. Don't know who this guy is, but he sure has scared a lot of people or caused a lot of people to rethink their business. So as we walk through these ideas, just think about your organization. I've got clients all over the country, from the agri space to technology to pharmaceuticals to finance. And almost in all of them, there is a percentage of people that in February of this year had a game plan for 2020 that they were executing. They had a sales plan, perhaps even of what they thought they were going to be executing in the month of February as they looked into 2020. And a lot of us had our game plans in motion. We were working out of our offices. Some of you, in essence, were doing travel. Some of you and I might have been using video platforms to some degree. But come the first part of March, a lot of that started changing for some people. And by the end of March, even if you were in denial, you pretty much couldn't get away from. The world is a different place. And so I look at that difference as a positive. How do we leverage that more effectively? And today I just want to focus in on one of many aspects of professional selling, and that is, what's the psychology to selling, and how does that apply both for what we were doing in February, as I keep using as kind of a date reference line, that has not changed today, and maybe what do we look at differently today, and how does that psychology of selling still impact us? So whether you are in the C-suite as a business owner, whether you're a solo practitioner, or whether you are in an organization as an important member in that organization, think about what your challenges are. Some of those sales challenges or sales problems. Again, we have people that are, kind of hunkered down on, being safe at home. What does safe mean to them? What does safety look like in organizations? This morning at 6 a.m., I'm on a webinar with one of my clients in California, phenomenal business. And I'm having a conversation with the vice president of safety and what that looks like in their organization today. This afternoon, again, I get a chance to visit with you all and share some ideas around selling, and we'll have time for questions at the end as well. So we'll open that up. And again, you can be typing in your questions as we go through this, and George will kind of feed those to me as we flow as well. But one of the things I want to start with right off the top is to challenge you. Think about how you look at sales, because most organizations work on what I call a 30, 60, 90-day window. Most sales professionals work on a 30, 60, 90-day window, meaning they're looking at what sales am I working on right now? What sales do I need to make right now? What sales is my sales leadership team, in essence, putting in front of me or focusing me on or putting pressure that we need to make and close in the next 30 days? And that's how most organizations sadly operate for the last several years. This is not a pandemic, COVID, what's going on in the marketplace today as in terms of uncertainty. That's how a lot of people really look at sales. It's 30 days is right in front of them. Some people were thinking maybe 60 days, 90 days out. And if you were playing sales from that short game perspective, you might have been having some successes, but you were leaving a lot of opportunities on the table that I'm going to help you to figure out where you find them, unearth them, and how we start making more sales to those elements. But one of the things I would challenge you is, if you're looking at sales from a 30, 60, 90-day window, if nothing else has caused you to think differently, the last 78 days, and it's been 78 days since most all states really started shutting down, you have to look at sales as not only a short game. Yes, we have to have cash flow now. We also need to look at sales as the long game. So instead of 30, 60, 90, I'd add 30 days to your sales plans. If you're taking down notes and jotting down notes, we have to start thinking beyond 3 months. So we have to start thinking, in essence, 120 days, 150 days, 180 days out. Some organizations that I'm interacting with today, and some of my colleagues I'm visiting with today, I hear them making comments that people basically have surrendered this month in sales. They surrendered last month in sales. They surrendered 2 months ago in sales. And it's kind of like everyone was looking at, fall of 2020. In the speaking industry, I'm here in Las Vegas. George is in Orlando. And interesting, the first part of March, I'm looking at my schedule for 2020, and I'm pretty much maxed out. I have my business plans, just like you have as you're on here today. And part of my business mix was to have 3 to 5 speaking engagements every month live in front of a convention or conference group. That mixes in with my on-site training programs I do with clients, and then that mixes in with any coaching or consulting. So you have a business model also of what you sell. So listen to as I present. Look at the products you have, because you may not be recognizing, and some of you have, because I'm preaching to the choir, but in the last 78 days, the market has shown you where they want you to be. And if you are where the market wants to be, this is a golden time to be in sales. I have a lot of clients that, again, they're not bragging, they're not, talking big and boasting, but quietly they're recognizing, hey, we're 100, 200, 300, 400% of revenue year to date since COVID showed up. How do you look at things differently? You and I right now are on a video platform. Again, if you know the history of video platforms, they've been around for a long time. But 9/11 and the unfortunateness of 9/11 is what created Zoom and GoToMeetings and WebEx and all of those elements, because people were afraid to get on planes and travel. And so that was a big push. What's happened in the last 4 months has been another massive marketing push to Zoom and WebEx and Teams and et cetera. And I'm using these examples so you can kind of think about, what do they mean to you and your business? So if I work for a company called Zoom or WebEx or GoToMeetings, I don't have to be a sales professional right now. That's what's sad. All you have to be is an order taker, because everyone's wanting your product right now, because we are not traveling the way we used to. And so these video platforms are going to change how we do business. So the 5 core nuggets you see on the screen in front of you, I just gave you 2 massive stories as to what businesses are not doing, what they are doing, and which businesses are stable or not stable. How do you look at things differently? So what we want to look at in terms of sales today is, how do we become a little more effective at this whole game of selling? And to me, there's a lot of things we can talk about. We'll talk about a digital copy of this book that I've written that I'll send to all of you when I'm done. You can buy the hard one online if you want. When it comes to selling, there are certain basics. And one of the basics is understanding the psychological process to selling. Today, all of us use our smartphones. And if you go on your smartphone to search up any data on Google or on YouTube, or you're looking for something on there, a lot of times when you find it and click on it, there's that 6-second commercial or 12-second commercial that pops up now that you have to watch. It's like you're hostage. You've got to watch it before you can click skip to get to the next element. And in that 6 seconds, they're doing what's on the screen right now, the 5 steps of selling. If they work through those 5 steps correctly, and it is of interest to you, you will not go to what you originally were going for. You'll actually watch that ad. It's the same thing on television when you see, in essence, a 30-second commercial. So I'm going to use references to these 5 steps today as well, so that you can benchmark against your user experience as a customer in the universe, so you can see what works and doesn't work with you, for you, or on you. And then you can say, okay, how am I doing that in my emails? How am I doing that in my social media? How am I doing that on a voicemail? How am I doing this in a presentation? How am I doing it if I'm doing a PowerPoint? Same basic elements apply to you that apply to me as we kind of walk through these elements. So with that, there's 5 steps. The first step, if you're taking notes, you want to write down attention. If you're taking electronic notes, you can label in one of your documents attention. This is the first step to selling. And another word for attention that you and I could use is awareness. So the first step in the sales process is the attention stage or the awareness stage. Awareness is, how do I go about getting your attention? As simple as this. So my graduate degree is in direct marketing. And so for those of you under the age of 30, welcome to the golden oldies. Those of you over the age of 30, then you know direct marketing has all of those things that used to come into your mailbox in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s before the advent of what we're doing here right now. Computer technology is a new guy on the block. For some of us, as a point of reference, if you think about it, in 1999, the #1 form of visual communication in the workplace. In 1999, the fastest form of office-to-office communication was a fax machine, the old paper, chop down a tree, shove it in a machine. So if you think about how we've become so comfortable in computer technology today, well, 20 years ago, it was rare. I mean, very few people had technology, especially those of you and I that might be tuning in from a home-based environment or a virtual office right now. That was never heard of in the early 2000s unless you had a lot of money. So old school, think about if you go to your mailbox, even today, if you were to go out inside and get your mail out of wherever your mailbox is and you have that mail in your hand, think about what's the color of almost every envelope that's going to be in that stack if you have mail. White. So none of them are doing anything to grab your attention, because you've actually got to look at each one to look for a logo or a word or a name or an address to identify what is this or who is it from. But if one of those envelopes were red, as an example, it would jump out of that stack. So what we mean by attention is, what do you do when you're in that sales role and you're initiating the sales call to someone? As an example, you want to know the 5 steps, because if you're initiating the call, you want to start at 1 and flow from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 if you plan on making a sale today or this year. So what do you do to break the other person's predisposition is what we're saying. So someone calls my cell phone or my office line. The voicemail recording I have is a little bit different, and it's designed to grab your attention. It says something like, "Thanks for calling. This is Jeff Magee. You've got my personal number." Sounds pretty much like anyone else's, but then I change it up. At the tone, do 3 things for me. See, now I've said something different to the person's brain, and now they start to pay attention. At the tone, do 3 things for me. Number 1, leave your name. If we've not met, please spell that so I get it correctly. Leave your phone number. Repeat that twice so I get that correct as well, and tell me number 3 exactly how I can help you. See, the beauty in sales role, no one's going to be offended by that kind of a voicemail recorded message that they're hearing, because I'm grabbing your attention. I'm going to guide you through what I need you to do. And also, let me just share with you, that voicemail recording I just shared with you is powerful. Think of the number of times you've, in essence, maybe flown from where you are to some other town. You went through the rental car game. You've driven to your hotel. You're checking in. You're going to go through some of your emails. You're checking your voicemail. And then there's a message from someone. "Hi, this is Russell Wysocki. Give me a call back, Jeff. I need to visit with you." Well, that's a great name and a good message. Problem is, if I don't know that person, then there's a lot of ways to spell that last name. Good luck trying. And if I'm going to go into my database and see if I can find the name to see a little bit about the person, so maybe send an email at 10:30 at night to answer the question you left earlier today, but I've been on a plane for 5 hours, it's going to be hard for me to do my job in sales role because I never even got past step 1. So step 1 is attention, awareness, connection, building rapport. Some of you might be familiar with the name Zig Ziglar, kind of one of the giants in the global world of sales and just great personal relations. Zig Ziglar was a mentor of mine. He wrote the 4 to 2 my books. And some of you get a copy of a magazine I published called Performance Magazine. If you're not getting that one, we'll talk about that one also before we get off of here today. So Zig Ziglar, before he in essence started to remove himself from the speaking and training and consulting circuit, had his executive assistant, Laura Majors, reach out to me and said, hey, Zig's going to be retiring next year. We've not made it public yet, but he loves writing for your magazine. And he asked us to reach out to you to see if you want some extra articles. And I said, absolutely. So if you know who Zig is, then a little more power behind the story. So they sent me a zip file with 70 articles that had never been published at that point. It gifted to me to run. So in the back of every issue of my performance magazine, the last article is an article on sales, always from the great Zig Ziglar. So again, if you are a Zig fan and you like to read, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to share the zip file with you, and you can read a lot of Zig. So now think about that story I just shared, because it goes through the next 4 steps, which I've not gotten to yet. But again, it's an example of a number one. When you use a name, the name has to resonate with people. So if we have nearly 100-ish people on this web call today, some of you know Zig, there may be some meaning behind that story. But if you don't know Zig Ziglar, then that story may have been for naught. So the point of step 1 is it should be fast, quick, to the point, accomplish your objective, shut up and get to the next step, which is the interest stage. So step 2 is interest, or other words that people may use for step 2. They may call this the needs analysis stage or the discovery stage. Call it whatever you want. But this is where you actually earn your paycheck. You know, if I look at these 5 steps, when I do my 2-day sales training boot camp program for clients and organizations on site that I've been doing for over 30 years, or I do it as a public program a couple times a year and invite people from around the country to come in if they'd like. When I get done sharing this on the chart and showing different ways of using it, I always remind people that if you only had a limited amount of time to go through all 5 steps, step 2 should be the step that you spend the majority of your time on. I've got some colleagues online here today. I noticed that you do a lot of sales and client development and ongoing relationships with clients. A lot of what you do, you're living on the phone, or maybe you've incorporated some visual Zoom or WebEx or some other sort of visual platform to make your sales calls and ongoing client development work with. But think about step 2 is where we should spend the majority of our time, because this is where you play consultant. If you want to put some other names and thoughts down for 2, it's the interest, it's discovery, it's needs analysis. This is where you play consultant. So if you, let's say, if I only had 10 minutes to call George as a lead that's come to me that I've never met, and I only had 10 minutes to visit with him, I want to make a large proportion of that 10 minutes, 5, 6, 7 of those 10 minutes needs to be all at step 2. See, if you've ever struggled to close the deal, if you've ever struggled to make the sell, as they say, which is the last step, 5 we'll get to, usually what I find is my challenge when I'm struggling and when I coach and work with other people, their challenge is the inability to close the deal is not typically problems with closing techniques. It really is we didn't do a good job at stage 2 unearthing and uncovering what their real needs are so we could do a better presentation. Because if you can truly identify someone's needs, you know, sometimes we call those pain factors, opportunities. You know, I don't want to get into word game today. I don't care what you call them. But if you can find out what someone's needs are and you have a solution and you just share that solution conversationally, it's amazing the number of people, they'll tell you exactly how to ink the deal. So we've got to slow down and recognize needs analysis, interest, discovery is all about asking the question. So if you're looking for some magical secret to questions to ask, let me back up. As a performance psychologist, the #1 question matrix you should use in strategic planning, when I'm working with C-suite executives, when I'm working with solo practitioners, it's always the same model I go back to, and that's high school English class, folks. If you think about when you were in high school English or any college class, your professors always scored you on when they read your article, your report, your document. They always scored you on the who, what, when, where, why, and how, the 5 W's and 1 H. You know, if you have a notepad, you just put those 6 letters down the side of a page and a dash next to them. Those 6 letters are easily 50 to 60 questions can come out of them. Well, in looking at making the decision to go with my product, Who all is going to be involved in those final decisions? See, that one who can turn you into multiple buyer identifications. Number 3, which we'll talk about. See, I've learned that whenever you or anyone purchases a product, a tangible, an intangible, no matter what it is, you're buying something yourself online or you're walking into the store, your brain goes through 4 decision points. So you yourself may be the only human being making a decision, but there's 4 little committees in your head that are going to talk to you in a second. And one of them can veto your purchase. And if I'm the sales associate, online or face-to-face, and I don't conversationally flow through any of these 4, it doesn't mean I'm going to make a sale. So it's very important for you, again, if you want to increase your ability to make sales, is to recognize, are you asking who, what, when, where, why, and how? Deep questions. Dr. Magee, we appreciate all the work you put into this RFP. We appreciate you visiting with our committee about, in essence, being our opening keynote speaker at our 2020 convention. Really impressed with your credentials. We've made a decision to kind of go another direction. Boom. A lot of my fellow colleagues in this industry get crushed at that second. That's where the fun begins for me, because I can take it 6 different directions times 6. I could go to, okay, I'm not even going to talk about 2020. I said, not a problem. Fantastic. I appreciate it. You know what? Keep all of my credentials, though. I'm going to keep yours. So at the last minute, if the speaker you've selected becomes ill and can't make it, or has a travel problem and can't make it, I don't want you to be stressed to figure out who else you can bring in. If I'm your number 2 choice, keep me on the sideline. And if I'm available on that day and you need me, please reach out to me. I'd love to be your backup speaker. I have been hired because of that sort of a question Q&A conversation. Or not a problem. Let me ask you this. When are you going to probably start looking at, so you can stutter a little bit, when are you probably going to start looking at your 2021 conference? And you find that data. Who's going to be running that committee? Is it going to be you as well or someone else? See, so I'm still going into the 5 W's and 1 H because I'm teeing up a sale for the long time. We say 3-time need states in sales. Most people, if they don't make this sale, it's amazing. They think everything is done and they shut the table. No, if it's a relationship model, if you're selling a commodity and they're going to buy from you or someone else, you always want to be in the game there. So again, long examples, many examples, and that's simply who, what, when, where, why, and how. So let's take it one step further. So there's 4 types of buyers that we need to be aware of. If you want to make a sale, and that's all the dollar bill sign means. I've got a couple people from the UK that have called in, so you can put a pound sign there if you'd like. So if you want to make the sale comes down to this. There's 4 buying decisions in your head, and it doesn't matter the order, so don't read into, if I say the first name, that must be the most important. It could be any one of them. But before I give you the 4, here's what I want you to recognize. What gets you and I typically in trouble is that we, in essence, get misled in the sales process, where what we tend to do is that we, in essence, put too much energy on just one of those and not the other 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're taking notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll give you the name in a second. And if you're taking notes, put a star at number 4, because number 4 is going to help you to lose more sales than you'll make. And this is the big mistake rookies make in sales. Sometimes veterans, we get a little bit too confident, which means we're forgetting basics, and we can get in trouble. So there's 4 buying types. 1 is going to be financial. There's always a financial decision maker to a decision. Can I afford this? Do I use my credit card? Do I write a check? Do I use layaway? Are there terms? I want to build a fence between my yard and the neighbor's yard. Let me talk to the neighbor, see if they'll pay halves of it. I mean, all of those are financial thoughts in your head. So financially, what's the price point? You know, if you buy a larger deliverable from me, I can adjust the price point on it and make it even more valuable to you and I, because I'm looking at a long-term relationship with you. So here's a way I can do even more service and help you even more. So when I have that conversation, I'm speaking to the person who might be looking at something with the dollars and cents. And sometimes, I get it, sometimes people are going to make a decision and it is only going to be about dollars and cents. And that's sometimes where you get in trouble, because it's not all the time. It is a sometime, but there's other times you have to show the value proposition. That's the words to write down. When it's just about dollars and you think you're going to lose it, then that's where you have to show them more value. What's the value proposition about your offer, about your deliverable, about you as the person? Because if you can show them more value that you can bring, then the price no longer is a cost. It's a different word called investment. So 1 is financial. Second buying decision we all make is going to be the technical. So technically, people are going to ask the question. If you're going to go buy something, you might be able to financially afford it. That's not the issue. But you might look at it and kind of scrutinize a little bit technically. Can I use that? Do I understand how to use that? Are there too many buttons? Is this going to scare me? Is this overkill? Etc. Example, think about how many of you have a remote control for your television at home. Think about how many of you and I really understand every button on that control. Because if you do, then you're the techno geek on this call. But I bet a whole lot of us, if we look at that remote control, there's a whole lot of buttons, and there's probably 5 you always use, and the other ones you really have no clue. So the technical, sometimes there is the technician side to the conversation about your product, your deliverable. So be ready to speak to that, or know who on your team possesses that subject matter expertise so that you can bring them into the conversation appropriately, so that you realize it's a team effort sometimes to make sales and maintain these relationships. So we have a financial, we have a technical. Third is going to be the user. Who's going to actually utilize this deliverable? How does that need to flow? How do I need to ship it to you so your people that are at the receiving end get it the right way? Or if you're shipping it to me, how do I want it? So there's always going to be the user. Will I use that? Or, I've got 3 of these already at home in my closet, kind of like this one. Nah, I'm not going to buy it. I mean, that was a user that disqualified the purchase in your head, and that's why you walked away from either clicking order or buying it off the shelf. So those are 3 of the 4 buying decisions in our head. The 4th one, which you put the star beside, is great to have. It's great if one human being is all 4 of these and the 4th voice is talking the loudest. That's great. It's important to have a number 4, and then you identify, well, wait a minute, this person I'm talking to is the technical side of it. They are the user side of it. They are the number 4 side of it, but they're not the one that's going to approve the purchase order or write the check or give me the credit card. So you better ask them who, what, when, or why is asked to the financial person. Hey, do we need to have a follow-up call with your CFO or with, in essence, the purchasing agent? So again, any one of them can veto your offer if you've not talked to them on the front side. So the 4th one, you can give it a series of names. Any word like the following is good. Advocate is the word that I would use. Number 4 is your advocate, or the cheerleader, or your champion sometimes. It's a person that likes you, likes your deliverable, loves your deliverable, and they're enthusiastic and excited about it. But sometimes what you don't realize is, okay, I might have talked to that voice with a person, but before I hang up the phone or terminate the video or stop having email exchanges with that other person at the other end, are they the technical, the financial, and user decision maker? Because if not, then there may be a potential problem. George might be my colleague. He may love Jeff Magee. He may see the value in what I do. Well, that's simply advocate and user. Is he going to actually use any of this himself? Okay, that's the user. Does it technically speak to the realities of where we are today? Okay, yes, I got technical. But is he going to write the check or give me the credit card? No. Well, if I don't nail that down, I have a potential problem, because if he says, okay, Magee, let's talk on Monday and finalize this, and I hang up and I go, wait a minute, okay, user, yep, technical, yep, advocate, yeah, he's that one. Well, I don't have any confirmation he actually is the CFO in this conversation. So between now and Monday, when he talks to whoever has to authorize this, they could potentially say, you know what, I'm not sure we want to expand that. I don't know if we want to authorize that much money. And then Monday, George has to say, hey, no, we're not going forward. And I'm going, holy crap, I thought you said yes. So it's really important to understand 3 in the sales world, folks. So again, keep in mind, 5 steps. We're only on step 2. If you're tracking the time, we're 31 minutes into the 1-hour commitment that you've made to be here today, and I thank you for that. This is also the step I said we have to spend the majority of the time on, and that's why. So again, there's a concept called stacking and linking. So in our 2-day workshop, I talk about stacking and linking by giving you some visual images you can stack on the floor to the ceiling in your mind's eye. And by looking at that image, you then can link purposes, link objectives, link questions to that. And so that is a very powerful tool I learned decades ago as to how to look at a conversation just a little bit differently so you can have a lot more success. So in my sales book, I have a stack and link model I created years ago that I can use to sell anything to anyone at any time. And that model is basically 13 images. So when you get this book, Stack and Link, I'll let you read that chapter. I'm not going to teach it today. I'm just going to tease you with it. So that's something that's in the book that's absolutely powerful. And we role play conversational stacks. We role play networking stacks when you go to networking events or chamber meetings or business conferences or expos or trade shows. But stacking and linking takes you back to number 2 and number 3. And that is, what's the questions I really need to be asking when I'm talking to this kind of a prospect about this kind of an offer? And if you have multiple offers, keep in mind that different offers go to different sorts of buyers. So you have to be able to make those adjustments. Point 5, and then we'll move on. So in the discovery stage, you also need to be looking at what are the buying opportunities that the other party's looking at. Are they looking at immediate needs, immediate purchase, immediate buy? So that's one of the 3. Sometimes people, they need something right now. So whatever now is defined as, now could be meaning right now, this minute, now might mean this day, now might mean this week, now might mean this month, now might mean this quarter. So once you define now, then you can understand the other 2 time types, or time need states, as I call them. So there's always an immediate purchase, an immediate need. Where a lot of salespeople forget is number 2 and 3. Number 2 is going to be the intermediate needs. What's the intermediate purchase? If someone's coming to a webinar, and this is my give back, one of the things that I've started doing a lot during the pandemic is not only a lot of my clients have immediately changed trajectory, and we're using Zoom platforms to do full day training programs and half day training programs. None of my clients I do training work with canceled in the last 78 days. Great companies, double downing to commitment, knowing I've got to grow my human capital, but Magee, your content has to make sure that it's directed every time. So they put the challenge on me. And the other part of it is a lot of my clients are not in essence leaving because we're addressing their immediate needs. See, time type 1, what's the immediate need? And a lot of my competition are not making sales in this space because they're not focused on number 1. They're thinking about it, but by the time you decide what the answer is to number 1, it's going to be October of this year. See, immediate needs. Clients are not going to wait forever for you to solve their problems. So another thought I want you to jot down for immediate is write down the word urgency. There's a massive lack of urgency on this planet. I have never seen more dumb, lazy people in my life. Now, again, not you, and I'm sure you've never met them, so they're just in my space. But a sense of urgency. When someone wants to buy something now, they don't want to wait in line forever. They don't want, in essence, be delayed. They don't want to, leave your name. We'll call you back in 1 hour. Thank you. I mean, they want now. Urgency. So urgency then now goes to number 2 is immediate. Number 3 is long-term. What's the long-term needs? Where do they want to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Most all of the clients that I do ongoing talent development work with, what's amazing is, number 1, none of them are only talking about today or this month or this quarter, this year. They're all talking now needs, intermediate needs, and long-term. And most of my clients' long-terms in terms of talking to me about talent development are all 3, 4, and 5 year windows. So it tells me where my brain has to be thinking out way over the horizon. So when you look at sales, step 2, you want to spend the majority of your time on, and hopefully I've given you lots of clues. Do market intelligence. Look at their company LinkedIn profile for what's going on. Look at their, in essence, the key buyers LinkedIn profile. Look at their websites. Look in your CRM system and see what the account history is. If you're new to your company, who was the agent or the representative with that client before? If they're an inactive account, look at the history, find out what they used to do, and find out why they're not doing it. So if you do a little bit of online due diligence, folks, you can really become a strategic asset to the people you're connecting with. They won't see you as a sales professional, which I kind of hate that label. They're going to see you as a strategic consultant. They're going to see you as a trusted advisor, someone who's there to help them to kind of go to the next level. So I'm going to hit pause for a second. And I'm going to have George pose a quick question out there for you guys. So let's just kind of get some quick feedback of where we are. So heads up.
Jeff, the actual poll is not firing. So why don't you give just a random question then?
Okay, so random question. Think about it this way. So random question number 1, if you actually have a written sales business plan for 2020, when you came into 2020 in January or February, if you actually had a written sales business plan, what do you want them to do, George?
They can just type it into the chat.
Type it into the chat. So if you actually have a written sales business plan, just type it into the chat box. If you have an updated or a written sales business plan for 2020 now, given what's going on in some of your markets geographically or some of your markets because of industry in the past 78 days, just put a plus sign on that one. I have one and we've updated it. If you don't have one, no problem. And I'm not going to actually have, I'll have George give us maybe some mathematical numerical answers in a minute, but I'm not going to put anyone on the spot because here's my real-time reality. Sales business leaders may have some kind of a written business plan for their C-suite. Most organizations, I do a 3-day annual sales planning retreat have in essence 50 slides I walk through when I do these retreats. And these slides are in front of you electronically in front of your computer. When we do this program, everyone's online, whether I'm physically in your space or we're doing it online because I'm off site. But you're filling in these slides because my experience has been for 30 years. Pfizer Pharmaceutical, Harley Davidson, Anheuser-Busch. These are major marquee corporations. What is stunning at the sales professionals level, none of them have written sales business plans. Stunning. They have like a one-pager that kind of says you're going to do X, Y, and Z. That's like a cliff notes. How are you going to execute a one-pager? I mean, you need a game plan. So that's another way of looking at that first polling question. See, if you were a business and you were going to go to an angel investor or an investment group or your banker for a loan, they would want a lot of due diligence in that business plan. And that's how you need to take the concept of this first polling question in terms of, again, do you have a sales plan? We'll come back to that one. George, what are some of the answers we're getting at this point?
Seeing a bunch of people with a yes and several with no, but some people are adjusting them.
I love it. Thank you so much. So if you don't have one, perfect. Glad you're here. Just got a huge clue. Sit down and write that down. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. When you and I can jump on a Zoom call offline and talk a little bit more. But again, what are your primary products? That's something you look at. What are your primary market segmentations? That's what you look at. Historically, what have they been doing in terms of trends? What's your competition in those spaces? Your competition, what's a competitive threat from them? You can run a SWOT analysis on all that. Then from, and again, what your core products are, core customers are, core competition, core markets. Then you extrapolate that against the future markets of today and where's it going in the next couple of years. We'll tell you in essence what your market share is. Market share is something important in every sales business plan. Let me push a little bit further. If all you think about is market share, you will never dominate the market the way you should be dominating. So one of the other thoughts and concepts I came up with years ago, market share means the percentage of the pie you're getting that everyone else is also getting. You want to grow your industry. It's not about market share. It's what I call market opportunity. How do you create new products? I've got an agri client based in Wisconsin, Nebraska, and in California. And so they're in lots of product lines. One of them is baby potato, for example. So market share would be, okay, and of all the people selling baby potatoes, how much are we moving? Well, number one, you're supposed to be the largest player in that space, so you better have the largest percentage of that pie. But then again, we can play with market share, but market opportunity would go to what parts of the industry are not buying our product right now. They're not buying our competition. That's opportunity. How do we innovate the current product we have so we can introduce new market opportunities with that product? Boom, that's market opportunity. So again, same elements. I'm doing virtual training right here. How do I do virtual training in other platforms? I have an online LMS system. My programs, unlike the majority of the people in my space, my programs are also academically accredited. Again, a lot of my products carry CPE accreditation. So if you're an attorney, you're an engineer, you're a CPA, you can get CPE hours by going to my programs. That gives me a market differential so I can see market opportunities for I can take my programs that otherwise I might not have been able to go. So great polling questions. Thanks for the update, George. And those are some ways of looking at it. Back to selling, 5 steps. Step 1 is awareness and attention. Step 2 is about the discovery and the interest and needs analysis, asking questions. So step 3 in this whole model is all about the presentation. So when you go to presentation, I want you to think of another massive word to write down here. So when you think of presentation, presentation really is all about solution. That's the word you want to write down. If you don't have a solution, there is no step 3, 4, 5. Shut up, hang up the phone, and go find someone else to talk to. There's a whole lot of sales time being wasted when you and I are trying to sell to someone who cannot afford us financially, doesn't understand how they're going to utilize your product user. They're never going to see the value in what you have, the technician, some of those answers I gave you at step 2. So again, at step 3, if I'm talking to you and I have no solution to the needs I've identified, not only do I want to shut up camp, what I might do is I'm trying to roll up this conversation and transition out. I might think, wait a minute, I've identified some needs. I myself can't solve those needs, but do I know someone else who can? And then that might be where I might, in essence, create a partnership with someone so I can still make the sale, but now my partnership, they're going to be delivering the solution. We see lots of that. That happens in the pharmaceutical industry all the time. Last 30 years I've been working with Pfizer as an example. Some of their top products are not theirs. They partner with someone who has the product to sell to their audience. Or if I can't do that, then if I know who has the solution, I'm just going to become, in essence, a professional salesperson by giving you recommendations. Hey, you know what? This is not my space, but I do know someone that they really do a lot of work in that space. Let me introduce you to George, and you guys just have a conversation, see where you go. But when you go into a presentation, Here are the 4 components to any presentation. So back up. If you've got an email proposal out in front of someone right now, hit print on that proposal when we get done today and kind of flow through these 5 steps. Your first sentence or paragraph in that email or your proposal, does it do the attention and awareness and grab their attention and why listen to you? Does it go through revisiting some of their core challenges and needs, thus as questions? So here are some of the ways we can address it. Now you're at step 3. See, that's how you would flow looking at an email or a proposal. So when you get into the presentation, couple little yield signs of caution. If you identified step 2, needs that they have, and in your head you start thinking next step is 3 solutions. I have multiple ways I can solve their needs. Be careful that you don't put all the solutions on the table at step 3. You might just keep a couple back in case you need them later on in the conversation. There's a saying here at number 3 that the old timers of sales used in the 60s and 70s. In your organization, if you have a veteran that's 20 years older than you that's been doing sales successfully for those years, you need to start taking them out for coffee or whatever their favorite drink is, because they're a great master mentor to help you accelerate success. But those old salespeople taught me the problem at number 3, Jeffrey, when you over-present, you over-provide solutions, they call it dump trucking. Dump trucking. You don't want to dump so much on them that you overwhelm them at step 3 that they have no clue how to purchase, because now you've given them too much information. And now in essence, you've actually created more problems for you. So just identify maybe your number 1 or 2 biggest solutions to their needs. And that's what you want to plug in here. So when you go into presentation, what's going to come off your fingertips or out of your mouth are 4 sentences. The first one is a claim. Write this down. A claim is an assertion. Any EST word out of your mouth in a video recording or on a piece of paper is an assertion. You go into step 3, you say, George, thank you very much for sharing with me some of where you're trying to go in 2020, some of your new challenges. I'm really excited that we're having a chance to visit today because I believe we have some of the best options in the market space today for you to consider. As soon as I said best, that's a claim, that's an assertion. We have some of the newest, fastest, bestest, greatest, prettiest, any EST word, it's like a hook. It starts to bring them in, but if you don't feed them numbers 2, 3, and 4, and you just keep doing ones and more ones and more ones and more ones and more ones, you're going to start to sound like a really bad late night infomercial, and you're going to lose credibility. You're also going to frustrate the listener, and they're going to hang up on you. So claims set the stage to go immediately to the tangible. Number 2 is the fact, the feature. You know, George, I'm looking at some online training deliverables for your leadership team or your revenue generation team. You know, I already have 50 one-hour webinars ready to go from all of the sales training and sales leadership work I've been doing with my clients for the past 20 years, that in the last decade, we've already recorded a lot of programs. So I can send you some information on those. I can take you online if you want to look at those right now, and we can look at those because those online training programs may be of value right now for your new salespeople, and add that to your onboarding and learning and development program. Or we can use that with your veteran sales team before I come on and do some live programs. So see, that is a fact. That's a tangible. That's a feature off of, I have some of the best and most powerful tools out there today. When everyone else is trying right now to create product, I'm already ready to go. Why waste time? Let's get it going. So the benefit, if you want to circle, if you've written down these 4 words, circle number 3, because number 3 is what motivates the person to purchase. Number 3 is what motivates someone to become excited with consuming number 1 and 2. The benefit is always what this means to you. So here's even a way to test this. So if any of you have proposals out right now and the person's not responding back the way you would hope them to have responded when you sent it, hit print on that proposal, hit print on that email. See, in the email, if I say, George, we have some of the, I think the most powerful, that's another EST word, some of the most powerful training programs in the marketplace. And we already have a whole series of online training programs designed in 50-minute deliverables. And if I understand what you said a minute ago, you do want some immediate training solutions to provide your people. Is that correct? See, and if I ask the question, you do want, as soon as I say what this means to you is that we have training solutions right now. In your sentence, if you read an email, in your paragraph, if you read your email, when you use words like what this means to you, or why this is important to you, or here's the value in what we've just shared, Those are transition phrases from talking 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and now you're about to go 3 and 4. And whenever you talk about the benefit, what this means to you, what this will do for you, how you're going to benefit, then you always want to use a confirming question to get them to give you feedback on what you've presented as your presentational solution that you believe is going to solve the needs that they identified and shared with you at step 2. You want them to say, you know what, yes, that's exactly the solution we want. So in your presentation, next time you're standing in front of your senior leaders and you're doing a PowerPoint presentation or writing on a whiteboard, think of the same flow. So there's a couple of ways that I can address the challenges that we're here to talk about today. That's a claim. I think 2 of the ways we can do it, boom, 1, boom, 2. And this is why I think those 2 items are important. As soon as you say, this is why I think these 2 are important, now you're going to talk about the benefit, what it's going to do, the ROI. And you can end with turning back around and asking any one person or the boss, is this, am I going in the right direction? Does this have value to you? And they'll give you a yes or no. That's a confirming question. This morning at 6:30, I did a workshop. I had a plant manager on the webinar, and I had a vice president. Those are the 2 senior leaders. We're working with 4 of their emerging employees that are in lead supervisory roles. When I got done with the workshop, I asked the number 4 to both bosses that were sitting there off camera, did we accomplish what we designed to set out to do today? Did we accomplish your objectives, sir? Absolutely, and then some. And I let them, in essence, nail down 3s and 4s in everyone's eyes. So even as a presenter, even as a consultant, I live with this formula. So again, look at when you present your solutions. This is absolutely a powerful formula. Hit pause. Notice where we are. We have about 12 minutes left. Right on track. Step 1, very quick. Step 2, majority of your time. Step 3, second most amount of time, because step 4 and 5 are almost anticlimactic. They go really fast. So step 4 is all about the desire or the emotion. We know that whenever you purchase anything, online by yourself, online with someone else, one-on-one by yourself with that person, or you're in a group scenario, you and your spouse, kids, family, friends, with your colleagues, with your boss, with your employees, whenever you purchase something, there's always a phase 4. Once you see the deliverable, which is step 3, step 4 is always kind of a story. You want to see the videotape. Do I see myself using this product? Can I see myself engaging with this person? Can I see myself wearing that garment? So that's always a stage 4. So you have to make sure you paint the picture. So if we proceed with this training program, here's how it's going to work. And so I find myself, when I start to say that, in my head, I know, okay, Jeff, did you go through 1, 2, 3 effectively? Because if you did, you're in the right place. So you say, here's how it's going to roll out. If you're talking about, here's how it's going to roll out, and you haven't really done 2 and 3, you're way out of sequence. You are wasting everyone's time because you're trying to butter them up. No, you never butter someone up. You share a video at step 4. You share video by talking through how you're going to be better off by, in essence, going with us versus the competition. So there's an emotional connection. This is where you get them to do the buy-in. And it's always the first person. Here's how I'm going to work with you. This is what you're going to experience. Because once you do that buy-in and they're with you, now you're heading for the finish line. What I have found out of the 5 steps of selling, outside of administratively, step 5 may consume some time. So administratively, step 5 may consume some time. Take that off the table. In terms of the psychology of selling, the psychology of client relationships, the psychology, see phrase any way you want, don't care. Step 5 is incredibly anticlimactic, because if you lay out a smooth, conversational, with confidence, professional, high level of integrity, step 1, 2, 3, 4, then only 2 things are going to happen. If you know they're ready to purchase, then you're going to go for an order. So there's 2 ways you can close a question. You can ask for an order. And so if you're writing down some notes, order equals commitment. Order equals commitment. So Sophia, if you were to proceed with this based upon everything we just talked about and some of your comments, do you want 1 or 2 of these? That's an order question, because I'm not giving her any out. If you'll give me your credit card, we're ready to process this. Before this call, I was online with Delta Airlines ordering her ticket for one of my upcoming client trips. The lady was absolutely masterful. She could have done this whole workshop herself, and she smoothly flowed right into 5, because after all of the Q&A I did with her, I exhausted her. I made her work for this ticket, because we were trying to figure out all the options to get to where my client is. And when we came down to it, boom, I gave her all of the responses I needed of 1, 2, 3, 4. So she went right to number 5. She says, I see in your order history here, we don't have a credit card online. What credit card do you want me to use to secure this ticket, Dr. Magee? Boom, she was right at a number 1. It wasn't, do you want to purchase it today? And she didn't go to, in essence, number 2, which is giving me options. Do you want me to purchase this today, or do you want me to put it on hold for 24 hours for you? See, as soon as you say put it on hold for 24 hours, that means we're not making a sale right now. So an order equals commitment. And number 2, an alternate of choice is what sometimes number 2 is taught. If I look at all my sales books I've read over the decades, sometimes people talk about, in essence, a trial close, an alternative choice. The point of number 1, again, is order equals commitment. Number 2 equals opinion. Number 2 equals opinion. If you were to order this, would you prefer the red or the brown? Oh, the brown? Oh, see, now you're getting more of a response. Based upon the response, you can tell, are they ready to commit? So maybe you default back to number 1. Well, I'm not really sure of either color, really. Oh, well, they're sure not ready to buy, because if they're not interested in blue or brown or whatever your options were. So if you're not sure they're ready to buy, you go to a number 2. Now, let me confess. Some of you have a lot more confidence than Jeff Magee. I don't always ask for the order. I sometimes have to kind of feel out the other person. And so I've become very comfortable at number 2. If you were to, in essence, attend this program, is it something you'd want to do by yourself, or would you want to bring someone with you? See, that's a number 2. I'm giving you options. If we were to do this training program and launch it, do we want to launch it this month or wait until July or August? See, that's a number 2, because whatever the response is going to tell me the energy the person has behind this. If you were to order this suit, is it something you want to do now, or whenever you use the word or, and that or is not taking you to a commitment, folks, you're at number 2. So again, when you look at making sales, there's 5 basic steps to sales. I would ask a polling question, but George made a comment a minute ago. We're having a little bit of a challenge, so I'm not going to really go there. So let me kind of go to here. I'm going to give you a chance if anyone wants to ask some questions, or if you have typed questions in, George will feed those to me in a minute. So let me just kind of transition. So we started at the top of the hour, 5 basic steps to selling. Psychology's done the research. They've looked at buyer personas, look at the psychographics of buyers, and they found out that whenever you go to buy something that you're not really sure about, you always go through the awareness stage, the attention stage. What is this? Where is this? Where am I going to find it? You know, what am I kind of really looking to do? What do I need to accomplish? Now you're at step 2. Is this going to answer what I need? Now you're at step 3. Do I see myself using this, buying this, benefiting from this? Now you're at step 4. Yes, it makes sense. Okay, step 5, how do I purchase? Where do I click? So your brain goes through the stages. But again, if you're not knowing what you want, then you're going to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me pause for 10 seconds and just kind of let you look at your notes. Hopefully what's flown through here makes sense. I'm going to give you a couple of macro 30,000-foot observations looking down on this. Sometimes when the phone rings, an inbound email or social media, your website inquiry comes in, request for proposal or what have you, that person is already at step 3. So what you have to recognize is, do you know much about them? If no, then you still got to do step 1, but you better do it fast. And you might want to ask a couple questions too to get the context of why they think that's the answer, so that you really can make sure they're making the right purchase. Because here's the other way you get in trouble with intermediate sales and long-term sales. You may solve someone's immediate needs in your head, but from their side, if you didn't fulfill and solve their immediate needs, they may feel like they bought the wrong product and they're not going to come back to you for seconds. And they may never tell you they're upset with the first experience. So those are some ways of looking at the 5 basic steps of selling. The psychology tells us that there's 5 steps: attention, interest, presentation, desire, close. If you've been to very many sales training programs in your life, you hopefully have actually even seen those exact same 5 words. I'm a big believer in not reinventing wheels. I'm a big believer that I don't need to get cute and come up with new labels for things. This morning I was reading an article that was submitted to me from someone who wants to submit an article in my magazine talking about pandemics and issues. The challenge is with my magazine is that every article is evergreen in nature. So I sent an email back saying, okay, I kind of like it, but you got to write it in a way that it doesn't time date it. Oh, by the way, the formula that you're citing in here is a great formula. The problem is you cited the wrong person. The person you're citing that came up with it basically is a new name that's just arrived on the planet because they found out about social media, so they're putting crap out there. As a shrink, this formula is called the grief cycle, and it's about 40 years of age. So if you want to cite it, perfect, but I challenge you to go back and Google grief cycle so you reference who it actually belongs to. See, a lot of times people, they think they have an answer, number 3, but they don't really have it, and that's your and my job is to give them the right answer. So thank you guys for being here today. So a couple quick bonuses. George, I'm going to cue you in here in a second, but one, for you all being here today, we're going to send you this ebook as kind of a webinar bonus. So I thank you guys for being here for that one. Some of you talked to me offline before we even talked about coming into this webinar today. And so again, if you're interested, real quickly, on my website, you can also find more about this on my navigational bar under events. But every year, each quarter, I do a 2-day live sales training boot camp here in Las Vegas. If any of you are scared about Las Vegas and traveling, everything is open, everything is safe. Vegas is doing a phenomenal job of social distancing and PPE and hand sanitizers and being sensitive to all those issues. And the room we're going to be in is going to have plenty of space. COVID is very much under control, at least today. While we're having some spikes in other places, it's very much being managed here. But I'm doing a 2-day boot camp. And it's the same 2-day boot camp that my clients have been bringing me in for years to deliver. We're going to spend, in essence, day 1 talking about strategic selling ideas. On the website's the full agenda. We're going to do day 2 on tactical selling ideas. You'll leave with multiple action plans and ways of accelerating success. If you're new to sales, this is a great place to be. If you're a veteran to sales, it's a great tune-up place to be. I'm going to hold it at Green Valley Ranch, which is one of my favorite casino resort facilities. It's actually not on the strip, but you can get to the strip very easily if you have that need to have to get down there. So that's another place we're going to be. There's the price point that we're charging for you being on this webinar. So make a note. If you want to come to the program and you register, because you're here today, for every person you register and pay for, you can bring one at no additional fee. So I'm not going to post that online. That's not going to be marketed anywhere else. If you go to my landing page on the website, it's not there. But for you, if you register the early bird fee, you can bring someone free. So again, colleague, family member, friend, whoever you'd like to come to that program. So again, that's our 2-day program. So again, a lot of value, a lot of places to go. Bring a guest for, in essence, $500, but no, because you're here today, you're not paying $500 for them. That's the fee everyone else has to pay if they want to bring a second person. So yours is free if you register for being on this program here as well today. And on that note, 5 steps of selling. We promised you 1 hour. I've got 60 seconds left. I'll stay on as long as any of you want to stay on. George, any questions that came in you want to pose that I need to answer for any of the participants?
Jeff, I just have to say fantastic work there. And you threw in a little bonus. So that's awesome just for these people on today's webinar. I do have a question that came in. It scrolled down, so I'm not really sure who it was from. But the question is, most of my networking, Jeff, happens in person. What can I do now that I am socially distant from people?
Love it. Great question. So what I recognized on March 18th when the governor of Nevada shut down this state is that a lot of us are people that love to shake the hand, do the bear hug, want to be face-to-face, and I'm one of those. So that's a great question. So what I immediately recognized was something that was working for me before COVID, I simply have doubled down on, and I would encourage you several answers. One, you need to become a major fan of Zoom. You can have a Zoom account, everybody. This is not a Zoom commercial, but you can have a Zoom account for free. You don't even have to pay to join Zoom. And so in this questioner's perspective, if you don't have a Zoom account, I'd go online, I'd sign up, get a Zoom account, do the free one. You can schedule 45-minute Zoom calls and it doesn't cost you 1 penny. And so you can do it free. You can schedule 30-minute Zoom calls. So now you can see each other, and that will help tremendously for those of us that are face-to-face tactile people. I'd encourage you to do a lot of those. And again, if you haven't been doing it, and you probably have, again, we're 2.5 months late for that question, but it's still a great question. You can do Zoom calls just to see, hey, how are you doing? Just check in with people. Sometimes it's not even about the sell. It's just about being a person. How are you doing? Is everyone okay? You're in. Again, some of you on this line are clients of mine. Some of you on this call today are colleagues and friends of mine. And some of you and I have not had the pleasure of meeting. But if we have met, just think about it. If we've talked, I've been doing a lot of, hey, how are you doing? What's the weather like? I might do that so I can play with it. But I really am. I'm weird. I do care about what the weather's like for people. Because I grew up in Colorado, spent time in Oklahoma and Montana, and I now live in Las Vegas. I tell people Las Vegas has the best weather in the universe. I mean, I've been here for 7 years, and I have never had a day where I couldn't go outside. I mean, bad weather here might be windy. Bad weather here might be, rain, wait 10 minutes, it's gone. Bad weather here might be it's 120. Guess what? No one's outside anyway, so who cares if it's 120? You're going from air conditioned, air conditioned, air conditioned. But again, so I may ask the weather question, but it gets you connected. So ask whatever those questions are, so great on. Now, take it deeper. I would start scheduling Zoom calls with your clients, and I'd go back to business. If they're not doing a lot of business, let's say this question was in April. They may not be doing a lot of business now, but you could be asking the intermediate long term, when are you expecting to start to get back to business? When are you expecting to get back to some degree of normalcy? So you know when those sales calls would happen. So I would do that. Second thing, I'd go on LinkedIn. Here's another quick answer. Folks, if you're not on LinkedIn, you are massively missing selling opportunities. Massively missing selling opportunities. I do a whole webinar on selling just on LinkedIn, and I'm not a LinkedIn expert. I'm not even a LinkedIn expert. But if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you're missing it. And if I'm your competitor, I'm loving you're missing because I'm stealing money out of your pocket. So the other one, I would get on LinkedIn. I'd have a pretty good profile. Just answer all the questions and the prompts in the admin toolbar, and you'll have a great, in essence, profile, and you can have a free LinkedIn account. Then what you can do is you can see all of your #1 clients you should be following, because almost every major company has a company LinkedIn profile. So I'm going to follow the company. I'm going to follow the movers and shakers in that business. I'm going to follow my customers in that business. Because if you're following them, then every day when you sign into LinkedIn on the navigational bar, if there's any updates that they've posted, you'll be notified of them, and you'll know who's been hired, who's been fired, who's been promoted, who the new movers and shakers are, any celebration. So great question. 3 quick answers. Took 4 minutes. There's a lot you can be doing. Any other questions, George?
I do, Jeff. I have one more, and it's funny how it segued in from LinkedIn. So the question was, how do I locate decision makers? I usually meet them at trade shows and other events that are within the industry.
All right. So George is one of these movers and shakers I met at a trade show. I'm going to go on LinkedIn and see if I'm connected with him. So if I am or I'm not, doesn't matter. If I'm not, I'm going to send a connect. Now, when you send a request to connect with someone, folks, here's the secret. There's 2 button options to send a request. One is just send a request. You're an idiot, so go ahead, good luck. Or the other one is you can send requests with a short note. I'm always going to do that. George, we've not had a chance to meet. We share a common friend in Daniel Rook, and Rook told me I need to get connected with you. Please connect. Now that message is going to more motivate him to want to say, yes, I want to connect back. And if I mention a name that's another mover and shaker, I'm going to increase the odds. So he's going to say, yes, he'll send me a message back. Now I've opened the door to talk to him. Now, if he's a mover and shaker and I want to meet other movers and shakers, I'm connected. Once you're connected with him, then in that connection, if I go to his profile, the second screen down on that profile will tell you all the people you have in common with. So that's another way to see the other ways that I can connect to George if he's my mover and shaker. Now, the question was, how do I meet other people? So if I go to my George person who's a customer, on the far right side of that LinkedIn landing page will tell you people George can introduce you to. It always gives you 5 suggestions. And those 5 suggestions of who George can introduce you to is going to be as an algorithm created based upon how you filled out your profile and why you and George are connected. And so if George is a buyer, and that's in his title line, that's going to trigger any other buyers that might be like George. So there's a lot of other ways to meet movers and shakers. Second, I know a company I want to sell into. Then you look them up on LinkedIn, go to their company profile. At the top of the page, there's going to be 2 options. One, in essence, you'll follow them. So that's an obvious. I'm going to click that. But on the left side toolbar, there's 4 options. One is going to say about. Click on the about, and it'll tell you about that company. So let's say you already know that. But the beauty is right below about is a button called people. You click on people, and every person in that company that has a LinkedIn profile is going to be there. And you can find out. If I know George's title is procurement, then I'm going to look at this new company and find the person's title is procurement. And now I can be linked to them just like I was at a business networking or trading show. So that's a way to meet them. Look at the people you know that can introduce. Go to, in essence, LinkedIn and follow the companies. You can find the people. LinkedIn is an incredibly powerful virtual tool to use. And again, at the beginning of the pandemic, if you weren't aware of it, that's okay. You asked the question now. But if you were aware of it at the beginning of the pandemic, you've been doubling and quadrupling down on using LinkedIn. I have. Next question, or any others we want to go to?
Jeff, just to be mindful of the time, I don't have any more questions, but certainly we'll just, if you just want to recap real quick.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much for being here. So 5 steps to selling: attention and awareness, interest discovery, Q&A, needs analysis, presentation solution, desire emotional connection, close, get the order, A lot of ways you can be successful. We're going to send you a copy of the ebook. If there's anything else I can do for you, send me an email. If you want to look at coming to the July 16th and 17th program here in Las Vegas, Thursday, Friday, I'd love to see you. I'd love to have you. We're going to have a phenomenal 2 days of doubling down on strategic and tactical selling ideas. Because you're here, when you register, then just let me know. We'll let you bring, for each registration paid, bring one person free. So thank you guys. George is my sidekick for 20 years. Thank you very much. We'll let you guys go. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.